Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good morning, Shubhodaya to everyone. This is Nitin Sridhar, Chief Curator of Advaita Academy, and I welcome you all to yet another episode of Weekend Conversations. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Gokulmuthu Narayanaswamy, and Gokulji is a sincere devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, and he is follower of Ramakrishna mission, and he has a wide range of spiritual experience in the sense of learning under different gurus from different sampradayas. And by profession, he is a software engineer and currently working as senior principal software engineer at Itron Bangalore. He holds a BTech in electrical and electronics engineering from IIT Madras and MSc engineering in computer science from IISc Bangalore, and MA in philosophy, religion and culture from Annamalai University. He is currently pursuing his PhD in IIT Kharagpur. Very warm welcome to you, Gokulji. Thank you for coming on our platform. We have been connected on Facebook for quite some time. I think for a few years now, but I think we never interacted per se, and it was pure coincidence that recently when you shared your article on Vedanta Kesari, that post appeared on my timeline, and I just went through it, and I absolutely love the article and the way you articulated it, and immediately I decided that I should contact you and I should invite you for our session, so that you can share your wisdom, your journey, and about Vedanta with our audience. So I'm very, very thankful that you agreed immediately without any fuss.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, so my very first question is, you have been a student of Vedanta for many years, and I think you were telling me that you teach to some students in some circles. So my first question is, how did it all began? I mean, when and how were you introduced to Adhyatma and spiritual life? And in Vedanta particular, but more generally, how and what age, what part of your journey were, the spiritual interest? I mean, not everybody gets interest in Adhyatma. I remember that in my own life, my interest in philosophy per se was happened when I got a Sophie's World. It's a novel in English about Western philosophy. I mean, so it happened in a very roundabout way.
Gardner.
Before that, I never had these questions per se. So, how did it happen to you?
Yeah, I would say like I was sucked into this Adhyatma world than my self-effort, at least initially. So the way it started was, so when I was in school, 9th standard, 10th standard, I had learned yogasanas from one of my father's friend. And so I was practicing, but that was more of asanas, like nothing beyond that. And of course, like come from a family who are devoted, more religious, slightly a religious background. And so what happened was this. So I was studying BTech in IIT Madras, and at that time there was a announcement of a yoga class happening in campus. And so because I already had some background, I thought, okay, let me refresh it. So I went there, and then of course, like knowing my background, like I was made into the demonstrating piece also. And so the person who was giving the yoga class was Swami Swayambodhananda. Now, Swami Swayambodhananda Saraswati, like he had a very interesting background, which I came to know much later anyway. So he was he's an electrical engineer, and then he was working in Rourkela or Bhilai, I think one of the steel plants, and then he left it, and then he joined Ramakrishna Mission, and he was a brahmachari there, went through training center, and then he decided to join Bihar School of Yoga after that, instead of continuing with the Ramakrishna mission for personal reasons. And uh, so he became a disciple of Swami Satyananda Saraswati of the Bihar School of Yoga. He lived there few years with his guru, and after a few years there, like his guru asked him to go on his own and be a parivrajaka and lead like, of course, his guru gave him the option, like either to stay in the ashram or to be a parivrajaka. Like so he decided to uh, go on his own on the spiritual life. And so he was kind of a parivrajaka. He was going around India, visiting various places. And one of his friends was a professor in IIT Madras, Professor E.G. Tulapurkara. And when he came to Chennai, like he stayed in his house, and he used to give this yoga classes. And morning used to be yoga classes, evening there used to be satsangs in one of the temples near the hostels, and then after that there used to be some personal discussions also. So I used to attend all of them. And during one of the personal discussions, he asked me about IIT and where is it and what is around IIT. So his questions were like, what is outside the IIT campus? So I said, yeah, there is one village called Taramani. There is a village called Velacheri. So he asked me, okay, who lives there? What is the kind of standard of living of those people? Where do those children go to school? Are they having at least 2 square meals a day? Uh, do they have enough health care? So these were the questions he was asking. And also he was asking things like, okay, who are the mess workers? Which schools do the mess workers children go to? And what is the kind of future of the mess workers children? You being students, they're basically like, they're also like, children of parents like you. Like, so I didn't have answers to any of these questions. And I drew a blank, and his reply was, then what are you doing here? Then that is when, like, it really dawned on me that, okay, like I've been kind of sleepwalking, living in my own cocoon. And then I asked him only, okay, what should I do? And then he introduced me to some group who was running tuition centers in Taramani village in the everyday evenings. So I joined that as a volunteer, and then started so that is how my what do you call, touch with social service and spiritual life started. And also there was a group of satsang people, like, who are much more well read than me, and who have been already in the spiritual life for many more years, right from their school days. Like, of course, we are all BTech students. And then so he used to come once in a year. And so he said, like, okay, like, you guys also continue reading and meeting and discussing. So when we started meeting in one of the rooms every week, and that's how it finally became the Vivekananda Study Circle in IIT Madras, which is now
Ah.
flourishing a lot. It is
Oh,
so we used to meet after dinner in every week in different rooms of students, and we used to read Vivekananda and then discuss. So, and so those people, some of them, like, they used to go to Ramakrishna Mission. So that's how I got introduced to Ramakrishna Mission. And
so indirectly from Bihar School of Yoga to Ramakrishna Mission, from social work to spirituality,
yes, yes,
you had a, very interesting
yes,
kind of entry.
yeah,
Yeah. So my second question, I think
mm,
it is related to this, is that in your blog also you
mm,
describe yourself as a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, and
yes,
you personally also told me that both Ramakrishna and Ramana Maharshi have had a huge influence on you
yes,
personally.
mm,
But on as far as traditional Vedantic study is
mm,
concerned, you have learned under different teachers from
yes,
Ramakrishna Mission and Bihar School of Yoga, and also I believe from teachers of Asha Vidya Parampara,
yes,
right?
yes,
So I
yes,
have twofold questions regarding this, because you are in a unique position to answer this, having studied under different teachers of different sampradayas.
mm,
One is, um, uh, how did these different teachers and influence you, your
mm,
thoughts, your approach to life, and what kind of influences
mm,
did you get by exposure to these different sampradayas at different point of
yes,
life? And secondly, how different are the teaching methodologies and approaches to Vedanta in particular, but Adhyatma in general, in these different sampradayas that
Mm.
you have watched and
Yeah.
understood closely?
Yeah. So, see, this can be looked at from three ways. One is, or two ways, right? So, one is, so you have the traditional sequence of karma yoga, then dhyana yoga, and then jnana yoga. So, by and large, like my journey also has been on a similar lines. So, what I actually learned from Swayambodhananji, though of course he had got a lot to teach, but then at that time I was only in a, in a position to absorb what I can. So, what he taught me mainly was karma yoga, and in fact, he one instruction which I kind of doggedly held on to, and I would say like that is what opened up the entire world to me. What he told me was, be a net giver. He said, draw a circle around you and ensure that always there is a net outflow, whether it is money, whether it is education, whether it is knowledge, whether it is secular knowledge, spiritual knowledge, whatever it is, there should always be more going out of you than coming into you. So be a net contributor, be a net giver. Give. He said, like, don't worry about anything else. In all spheres of life, just keep giving, and the karmic balance will tilt and everything will fall into place. That's exactly what he said. He said, like, everyone is under heavy karmic debt. We all know the tradition, right? Like, we have the Pancha Maharunas, right? So
Mhm.
he said, like, he taught, that is what he taught me first. He said, like, he taught me about the Pancha Runa. He said, like, every individual is heavily indebted. So you keep, and as long as you are indebted, Mother Nature will not open the keys to spiritual life for anyone. So you have to tilt the balance first. And the balance has to be tilted by giving. Just relentlessly give. The more you give, the better. So I kind of, like took that one instruction very seriously. And that is what, so once the, like the balance started tilting, then automatically, like, I got introduced into Ramakrishna mission, and where I got my guru mantra, got my diksha, then went into the next phase, like the spiritual, the meditation phase, doing japa, the dhyana, those things. And then when my, I was ripe enough, I would say, Ramakrishna Mission monks, they introduced me to Arshavidya Gurukulam, they introduced me to Paramatharanji, and then my Jnana Yoga started from there. So that way, I would say, like, it's a very, like a classic textbook case of, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. So that is the way. And finally, like, looking at it, it's just different terminologies. Like, if you look at, so what I learned from Swayam Bhadananji was mostly of, like the mantras, the kundalini, and the chakras. Like, he taught me all those kind of the meditation according to the Bihar school of yoga style. And then when you go to Vedanta, like, we have the pancha koshas, and then, like, you have the, like how you detach yourself from the various koshas. So ultimately, like, and then I had my Pauranic, like, like the popular religion, I learned from Krishna Premi Maharaj, all the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavatam, the lives of saints. So all those tradition I learned from Krishna Premi Maharaj through lectures and videos and audios and all that. So so there, like, you look at lokas, right? So you so now these three, right, like the lokas of the Puranic tradition, and then the koshas of the Vedantic tradition, and then the chakras of the tantra and the yoga tradition, they all actually have a one-to-one correspondence. This chakra corresponds to this kosha, corresponds to this loka. This chakra corresponds to this chakra, like correspond to this kosha, corresponds to this loka. So that way, like, they are actually, like, they have a very clean one-to-one correspondence. And it is just that as you progress anywhere, you progress together, like, because the truth is the same. It is just a different ways of explaining the truth. So that different traditions actually come into very, very neatly, they come into coincidence, right?
Can you, well, this is, you have made a very interesting observation. I want you to elaborate
Mm-hmm.
that there is a direct correspondence between the seven chakras and the seven lokas and the I think Panchakoshas and so
Yes.
yeah, can you elaborate a bit for the benefit of audience how this correspondence happens and what are the corresponding elements and what they stand?
Yeah. So, like, of course, it's a big topic, but so I'll
Yeah, I know, I
I'll
know.
try to give it in brief.
Yeah.
So, so if you look at the tradition of the yoga and the Kundalini and the Lalita Sahasranama tradition, right? So you have, of course, you have the 7 chakras, and the 7 chakras that can be approximated to the 3 granthis, right? So you have the Brahma Granthi, Vishnu Granthi, Rudra Granthi. So the Brahma Granthi is the at the Manipuri chakra level, and Vishnu Granthi as Anahata, and then the Rudra Granthi as the is at the Agni chakra level, right? Now these three correspond to the Stula, Sukshma, and Karana Sharira of the Vedanta. So when you at the Muladhara level, so there like it is basically about like physical identity. The Annamaya Kosha is where that is mostly there, right? And then, so the Muladhara and Swadhisthana basically is the map to the Annamaya Kosha. And the Manipuri maps to the Pranamaya Kosha. And all, so basically, like, of course, in the Vedanta, the Pranamaya Kosha is a part of the Sukshma Sharira, but that is the bridge there. So when you say like Brahma Granthi is broken, basically it means that you no longer identify yourself with the Sukshma, with the Stula Sharira. So identification with the Stula Sharira, right, of the Panchakosha, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stula Sharira is basically Annamaya Kosha, is
Mm-hmm.
corresponding to the breaking of the Brahma Granthi in the Tantric side. So
Oh.
similarly, like then you identify yourself with the Sukshma Sharira, so which is basically your Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Buddhimaya Kosha. Now
Mm-hmm.
that corresponds to the Anahata at the Kundalini level. So now going beyond the Sukshma Sharira is what is called as breaking the Vishnu Granthi here.
Mm-hmm.
So when you break the Vishnu Granthi, so now you no longer identify yourself with the Sukshma Sharira. So your identity is only with the Karana Sharira. And going beyond the Karana Sharira level is what is breaking the Rudra Granthi. So that way, like the 3 here has a corresponding. And actually, like the whole thing is, like can be mapped on even to the modern neuroscience. Like you have the reptilian brain, and then you have the limbic brain, and then you have the neocortex, right? So they also actually map, like, so what you call as the Pranamaya Kosha is basically the reptilian brain. And what we call as the Manomaya Kosha is basically the limbic brain. And what we call as the neocortex is basically the Vijnanamaya Kosha or Buddhimaya Kosha. And
But is not the terminologies in the modern science refers to the basically the physical body parts per se, and not to the sukshma level of
so,
understanding.
so basically, like the truth is, of course, is Sukshma, but then it manifests in the physical world, right? So, so,
Yes, yes.
so basically, like the Sukshma Sharira has got 3 components, what we call as like the Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, right? So Kriya Shakti is basically a Pranamaya Kosha. That is the reptilian brain, which is there in the animals, right? Which is there even in the instinct, what we call as the instinct in the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So then comes the limbic system, which is basically the Manomaya Kosha, where we have the concept of likes and dislikes and emotions and all that. And then comes the neocortex, right, where we have the mirror neurons, which they form the Vijnanamaya Kosha, where you have the concept of right and wrong. The dharma adharma concept comes at the Vijnanamaya Kosha level, and that comes because we have the neocortex, which is because of the mirror neurons, which can actually do a long-term simulation of, okay, like, what if I do this, what happens, if I do this, what happens, so that we are able to do a long-term vision of the impact of our actions. So that is why the neocortex basically like corresponds to the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, the Karana Sharira is the basic core individuality, which is the seat of the free will, right? Like, and the seat of the individuality. And that is the
That
Rudra
corresponds
Granthi.
to which chakra?
That is the
Okay,
Agni chakra. Agni chakra. There's a Rudra Granthi.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Lalita
Mm-hmm.
Sahasranama calls it a Rudra Granthi is basically the Agni
Mm-hmm.
chakra, which is basically the same as the Karana Sharira of the Vedanta.
It says Lalita Sasam says Rudra Granthi Vibhedini,
Yes.
right?
So when you say Rudra Granthi
Very
Vibhedini,
interesting.
it basically means you go beyond the individuality. So which is what is called in the Vaishnava Sampradaya as Prapatti, Sharanagati. Sharanagati is basically giving up your individuality, surrendering your individuality, which is basically breaking the Rudra Granthi, where you give up your individuality. In Vedanta, we call it as okay, going beyond the Karna Sharira also.
Okay, okay, wonderful,
That is
wonderful,
how
very
they all
interesting.
map together. Yeah.
So you were telling us about your journey from how your guru in Bihar School of
Mm.
Yoga led to you to Ramakrishna order.
Mm.
Who was your teacher in Ramakrishna order, and then how did you transition from there to Harsha Vidya
Yeah.
Gurukulam? Who taught you there?
Yeah. So one thing is Swayambodhananji himself, he is a disciple of Ramakrishna Mission also. Like so his mantra diksha he took from Prabhu Maharaj, Swami Vireshwaranandji, and sannyasa diksha he took from Satyananda Saraswati. So that way, like he also has a root in Ramakrishna Mission, and he introduced me to the Ramakrishna Mission. And in Ramakrishna Mission, like of course, like I had my spiritual initiation with Swami Gahananji Maharaj, and then like Ramakrishna Mission, it's an institution. So basically, like the institution takes care of you as a full body. So there in Alsur, I started going to Alsur, and there is a Yuvak Sangha was there. So I was a part of the Yuvak Sangha. We used to have Sunday classes, and one brahmachari at that time, Anand Maharaj. Now he is Swami Paramasukhanandji. He is in Velur now. Sorry, Vilupuram. He's in Vilupuram now. So he was in charge. He was given the charge of the Yuvak Sangha, Vivekananda Yuvak Sangha, and he has learned Vedanta from Paramatharanji, and so he started teaching us. And when he saw that we were a bunch of people who are interested in Vedanta, so he started teaching from the traditional point of view, like from a Tattva Bodha and Atma Bodha, and from those points of view. And then we asked him to teach us Brahma Sutras. So he said, "Okay, fine, I can teach you Brahma Sutra, but you should be serious about it." So we said, "Yeah, like we are serious. So what do you want us to do?" So he said, "Here first you become familiar with Tattva Bodha." So he gave the Tattva Bodha. Like we use there is a Vedanta mission who has got brought out a very beautiful small booklet on Tattva Bodha with just the translations. So he gave us that, and then he gave us the audio lectures of Swami Paramathananji. He said, when you are thorough with Tattva Bodha, then Brahma Sutra class can start, and you on your own you study Tattva Bodha and let me know when you are ready. And then we took about a month or two to study Tattva Bodha on our own. After that, about 5 or 6 people we were there. We went and told him, like, Maharaj, like we have studied Tattva Bodha, so can you please teach us Brahma Sutra? So the class used to be morning 6:30. Now these are all ways by which, like to ensure that you are really serious about it. And also it is a convenience because like the class starts at 6:30 and it was on a Saturday. And 6:30 morning you come to the class, and then the class used to be there till around 7:30. Class used to be finished at around 7:30, 7:45, and then some doubts, discussions. Then 8 o'clock from the in the ashram kitchen, they used to give us nice idlis, hot, nice idlis with the as breakfast. And after that, we used to do some small any seva or any voluntary work, and we used to go back home at around 9 o'clock, which is roughly the time the household people wake up anyway, right? So we are back at home by the time the Saturday the world wakes up. So that way, like it was kind of non-intrusive to the family also. And it was and he taught us the Chatushutri Bhashya of Shankaracharya, starting with the this thing Adhyasa Bhashya plus Chatushutri Bhashya. And for that he took one year, 52 classes, and it was a thorough teaching, and with practically grounded. Like it is not just theory, from the point of view of a spiritual aspirant. So that was an amazing experience. And so then like he introduced me to Paramathananji's lectures, and I went through. Paramathananji himself has a recommendation of a sequence, so I went through that. So
Okay, great. You just mentioned about Paramarthananda's methodology. I think this is something very important because when people speak about Vedanta, or even Adhyatma, most people have only Bhagavad Gita in mind, and some
mm,
people at best Upanishads. And
mm,
a new person, when he starts to, if somebody starts to study on their own, there is simply huge number of texts. I mean, he discovers that there is something called Prakarana Granthas, and there are hundreds of them.
mm,
There are 12 major Upanishads and hundreds other smaller Upanishads.
mm,
So many texts, it's like a forest, right?
mm,
So so sometimes I also have personally get these questions from many people. Sir, where do we start?
mm.
How do we start? And is there a chart? Is there a
Yes.
plan that we can follow? So can you please share about this that you just mentioned that
Y-
Swami Paramathananji has
Yes.
a methodology, and can you shed light on this?
Yes. So in Paramatharanji, like for people who don't know him much, he's a disciple of Swami Chinmayananji and then later Swami Dayananji Saraswati also. And he has been teaching in Chennai since 1978 or something. And all his lectures are recorded and they're all available. Okay, so and he takes about 5 classes a week in Chennai, and so they're all there. And so Paramathanji, he has created a krama, a sequence, right? Like how to learn Vedanta, which is very easy, very smooth. So he has got 16 lectures on where this thing on called Introduction to Vedanta, which is basically like covers the topics of Tattva Bodha, but not necessarily follows the Tattva Bodha text. Tattva Bodha is the basic text of Vedanta, and it's basically a dictionary of Vedanta. All the terms are very systematically defined very clearly, and even today, like even when my teachers, either Paramasukanji or anywhere, whenever they want to define a term, okay, Vairagya, what is Vairagya? Like you take the definition from Tattva Bodha only. So that way, like Viveka, Vairagya, what are the Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, the koshas, the avastatraya, like everything is defined very, very, very clearly in Tattva Bodha. So Tattva Bodha is the foundation text for Vedanta. And because even Tattva Bodha is kind of written by Shankaracharya, which is a few centuries back, we are culturally very separated from that. So even Tattva Bodha, we cannot start off directly. So what Paramathanji has given is, he has given another set called Introduction to Vedanta, which is based on Tattva Bodha, but for the modern culture. Like, so because we have to look at the social circumstance and we have to see from where we come from, right? So Paramathanji's 16 lectures on Introduction to Vedanta is the place to start with. And you can, and one thing Paramathanji says is, moment you have realized that, okay, there is a value in studying this, now you don't just listen or read, you study. So when you read Tattva Bodha or when you listen to Introduction to Vedanta, you listen as if you are going to write an exam for it at the end. That is when real knowledge transfer happens. So you start with the Introduction to Vedanta, 16 lectures, and then you can go for Tattva Bodha, which is I think which is about, I think, again another 14 or 15 lectures of each shloka by shloka, verse by it is actually a prose text. Only the introduction is, only the stuti is in poetry. The rest of the Tattva is in prose. So after that, you go to Paramathananji's Gita lectures. Now Gita lectures, Paramathananji's Gita lectures is 250 hours, covers shloka by shloka. And one thing which I have found is, instead of going through directly the 250 lectures in sequence, at the end of every chapter, he dedicates one entire hour as a summary of the chapter, the chapter summary. So what you can do is, you can do one round, right, 18 hours, where you just go through all the chapter summaries. Of course, plus his introduction to Bhagavad Gita is a 1 hour lecture, which is a gem in itself. At least, like, we, like from Vivekananda Study Circle, we would have listened to it at least 20-30 times, playing it together, and still it is never boring. Like the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, 1 hour lecture by Swami Paramathananji, which is the first lecture in his 250 lecture series. That is an amazing lecture which gives a complete overview of the entire Gita. So once then you know what is there in the Gita. Then after that, you go through chapter summaries. Just take the summary lecture of each chapter, 18 chapters, you go through that. Then you go to the chapter verse by verse lectures. So once you have covered Bhagavad Gita fully, Then you can go to the principal Upanishads. So all the major Upanishads Paramatharanji has given. Of course, Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka are so big, like it tends to become boring actually, right? Because it's too academic, and we are very much separated from the cultural background of those. So what you can do is you can just take the specific chapters. For example, Chandogya Upanishad, the 6th chapter, right? Like so which is the most important one, right? Like so that way, like you can listen. So and Paramatharanji has given a series on summary of the Upanishads also. So each Upanishad is summarized. So small Upanishads, just one lecture, and big Upanishads like Chandogya Upanishad might be some 2 or 3 lectures. So listen to the summary of Upanishads first fully, and then specifically you can go to each Upanishad which you like, and don't miss the important Upanishads like Mundaka Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Isavashi Upanishad, which gives a very good, and Kathopanishad, right? So these are the foundation texts. So basically, like this is and then after finishing this full course of the major Upanishads, the final summary of the entire course is Vedanta Sara. That is another series of lectures by Swami Paramatharanji, because Vedanta Sara is basically a Manana Grantha where it quotes from the Upanishads. Like it actually quotes exactly from the Upanishads to explain each concept. So that way, like on one end you have Tattva Bodha, and the other end you have Vedanta Sara. So you start with Tattva Bodha, go through Gita, Upanishads, and end with Vedanta Sara. So this is the full course on Vedanta, all Paramatharanji's lectures. And of course, they're all in English. So if you are looking for in other languages, like there are a lot of disciples of Paramatharanji who have been giving in Tamil, Telugu. And of course, you can also go to other disciples of the Ashavidya Gurukulam tradition, like Tattvavedananji is there, like, and Purananda is there. So there are so many, in Bangalore we have Chidatmananji, like, so there are disciples of Paramathananji who give the same teaching following the same methodology, and you can attend classes. So there is even on internet entire page on Arshavidya teachers all over the world. So they have one page where they have the addresses of all the Arshavidya teachers who are actively teaching. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity we have by the Arshavidya tradition created by Swami Dayananda Saraswati.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Um, Now that we discussed about this, the methodology of understanding Vedanta, there are still some basic questions I want to ask because I have seen this that we have been, our education system has made it very difficult to people to actually grasp the what Hindu Dharma is all about, in a sense. I mean, they when we speak about, I know some people who have never heard of the word Upanishad, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They have never heard of it. Gita, at least people are familiar, but beyond Gita, they are not familiar. But and if I, instead of Upanishad, I use the term Vedantam, they don't even know what it is. So but there are, of course, there are a lot of people who today we see they pick up quotes from this Upanishads or Gita and create memes, and sometimes this leads to a lot of out of context quoting, right? So with this in background, I have few very basic questions that I think if you shed light, it would be very useful to our audience. First is, what is the goal of Vedanta? Second, what is the intended primary audience of Vedanta? And third, in what way a common man or a common woman, somebody like us, can make use of Vedanta's teachings in their everyday life?
See, Vedanta, the goal is very, very simple and down to earth, right? It is just happiness, right? Bhagavad Gita, the teaching of Bhagavad Gita starts in the second chapter, 11th shloka, where Krishna in quarter shloka, he says, Na anushochanti panditaha, right? The wise man does not grieve. Now, this quarter shloka actually is the, what you call as the Anubandha Chatushti, like so for every text as per the Hindu of the Indian tradition, it should answer like what is the goal, what is the means, what is the relationship, who is the adhikari, right? So now this is called Anubandha Chatushtaya, right? So this quarter shloka, na anushochanti panditaha, answers all those questions. So what is the question? Like, who is the adhikari for Vedanta? A person who is grieving, which covers the entire humanity, of course, right? Everyone is subject to sorrow at one point or the other. Only the jnani is free from sorrow, and that is the whole purpose of it. So the qualification for Vedanta is that if you sometimes are sad, you are a adhikari. Sometimes if you face sorrow in life, okay, so now you are a fit disciple for Vedanta. Okay, that is the address. That's what it's going to address. And it says, what is the solution? Solution is jnana. Na anushochanti panditaha. So become a pandita is the way. Pandita here means a wise man. So wisdom is the solution to sorrow. Now the rest of it is, okay, now what is this wisdom? Wisdom about what and how do I get it? Right? So that is all the whole of Vedanta. It addresses the basic human problem of sorrow. Okay. So now, and the approach of Vedanta is very, very systematic and very scientific. Right? So if you look at what is sorrow, the first thing which we try to understand is what is happiness, what is sorrow, where does happiness come from, and what is stopping us from being happy. So that is the first question which is analyzed in Vedanta, right? And once we understand that, so what we find is exactly what Buddha several centuries later after Vedanta, Buddha also came to the same conclusion that desire is the cause for sorrow, right? So that is exactly, so basically, like, we have a sense of limitation, and this limited identity gives desire, and that desire makes us sad. So now how to solve this problem of sorrow? The way to sorrow is to be free from desire, and the way to be free from desire is to discover our unlimitedness. By nature, we are not having this limited identity which we think we are. So getting out of this is the way to happiness. So now question is, okay, now what is it that is binding us here? And that is where we say Prakriti, Maya, like, that's the one which is binding us. So the way the world works is, like, the world is run by Maya or Prakriti, the power of the Lord. And the nature wants to get its work done. Okay. And so what nature has done is, it has put, if you go into neuroscience, this chemical called dopamine. So it has put the dopamine triggers at the right places in the brain of human beings, and of course all animals. And the purpose of nature is to, the species should procreate, they should live, they should be successful, like, like the all evolutionary biology, everything comes. And everything is driven by this molecule called dopamine. And that is the one, when dopamine comes into the brain, we feel happy. And for its purposes, what nature has done is, like, it has, to serve its purpose, it has created the right triggers. That's why, like, in the Veda, we say, like, the Ajnanis, the Ajnana Purushas, the Prakrita Purushas are Devanam Pashuhu. They're all, like, pets of the Devas. Devas here basically means nature, right? Just like a dog, like, okay, show a bone, show a stick. And that's what nature is doing with this dopamine inside, right? And all the instincts are basically because of that, right? And the whole human problem is to say, like, I don't want to be in this bondage. What is the bondage? Dopamine is the bondage. I don't want to be under this spell of nature. How do I get out of it? Right? So now the thing is, nature has a purpose for this universe. And unless nature believes that you are its friend, nature will not let you free. Nature is so powerful. So the first thing is, you have to demonstrate to nature that you are not a competitor with nature, and you are a cooperator with nature, right? You are a collaborator with nature. How do you do that? That is called Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is you telling nature that I'm not your competitor, I am your collaborator. So what does it mean? Nature says, if you want to survive, you work, I will give you some money. With that money, you can buy food and you can survive. If you want some enjoyment, you work, I will give you money. With that money, you buy something you enjoy, right? Your senses and all these things. So this is how nature is running its show. So now you want to break it. How do you break it? You tell nature, even without, I am not dependent on your money and your pleasures for my work. I will work on my own free will. You don't need to dictate me. That is karma yoga. Work without any looking at the results. So nature has put this chain of results, work and results, to get its work done, and you break it by saying, oh nature, you don't need to dictate me, you don't need to show me carrots and sticks to make me work. I will work on my own accord. I'm not your competitor. I have my free will, I have my self discipline, I will work. So now when you demonstrate that in life, right, when you say that I will work for the welfare of this world, I will do my duties without this nature's sticks and carrots, then nature looks at you not as a competitor but as a collaborator. Then nature opens the lock, your mind opens up, right? Then you can look beyond this dopamine cycle. And only when you do this, only when nature opens this lock for you, you can sit and meditate. Otherwise, nature will not let you to sit and meditate. Now you have to become introvert to know, to go to the next level, to understand what is the truth. So the whole thing is very scientific, right? It is completely in line with modern neuroscience, evolutionary biology. Like it's all, everything is in place, right? Like whatever the process of sadhana, whatever Vedanta says, karma yoga, like even meditation, right? Meditation is just like you sit for meditation, and then like meditation helps you to manage your own dopamine in your brain. So you no longer depend on the senses outside for your gratification. It cuts that bond. That is what is called Vishnu Granthi. The first bond where, like you work and you get that where nature binds you into its karmic cycle, that is the Brahma Granthi. And where nature shows you the pleasure, right? So attachment to security, right, is the Brahma Granthi, where you depend on nature for your security. Where you depend on nature for your pleasure is Vishnu Granthi. So so Vishnu Granthi can be broken by meditation. You sit
What
in
about
meditation.
Rudra Granthi?
Rudra Granthi is jnana. So where you realize that you are not you get over even your individuality, right? Like where you completely you become an infinite being, right? Like because all these things are under like I am an individual, right? So when you go to the Brahma Granthi, where you are basically, it's about bhokta, right? Like you want to survive first, then you say like I want to end. So that is, so the survival instinct, breaking the survival instinct is called breaking the Brahma Granthi. Breaking the pleasure instinct is called breaking the Vishnu Granthi. And then breaking the individuality, like the whole concept that I am an individual, that is Rudra Granthi. So that comes by jnana. So this
Wonderful,
sequence has to be followed,
wonderful, wonderful.
right?
Viewers, we are almost, we have, I think, around 12, 13 minutes left. So if you have any questions, please leave the questions in question and answer box and not the chat box, and we will take one or two questions. Gokulji, I mean, as we are coming to conclusion of this session, I want to know about you're currently doing your PhD. You have started with it, and
Mm.
on I think it's something related to meditation and
Yes,
mantras, I believe.
yes.
So I'm very this topic interests me a lot. So can you share something about what you're planning to do in your research?
Yes. So my guide is Professor Anuradha Chaudhary in IIT Kharagpur. So I've joined this semester only. It's not even just a couple of months since I have joined. So what we are planning to do is trying to see how the various mantras and the various types of meditations and mantras in particular, the Sanskrit mantras, how do they affect the human system, right? Like, and like the questions like will the what are the conditions for the mantras to be effective? Is concentration needed? Without concentration, or is it independent of that? Are there, like different mindsets is needed? Like, so study the various influencing factors and those on the human system. Like, so when you say human system, like on the biomarkers, using ECG, EEG, GSR, like using the systems we want to study. So that is what we are planning to study, but still it is in a very rudimentary state. We need to see as we proceed how it goes.
I guess it would be one of a kind of study. I don't think lot many studies have been done on this subject of how mantra affects.
Yes, some studies have been done on different yogic practices. Say, for
Mhm,
example, Professor Ravindra, Dr. Ravindra in Nimhans, he's doing a study on yogasanas. Like when you hold a particular posture in yogasana for a length of time, during that time, like how the various biomarkers are there, and what is the optimum time for each yogasana, how much time you should be held there for its effectiveness, and after how long doesn't matter if you hold it further longer or not. So that way, like, they are doing a lot of studies on that. And of
mhm.
course, Bihar School of Yoga has done a lot of studies on various meditation techniques, on the mudras, bandhas, and yoga nidra. Like yoga nidra, lot of studies have been done, scientific studies have been done on yoga nidra by Bihar School of Yoga. So there have been some studies which have been done, and Vyasa, like S Vyasa in
Mhm,
Bangalore,
mhm.
Professor Nagendra, Dr. Nagendra's institute, they have also done a lot of studies on yoga. But
Oh.
mantra aspect, looks like there is not much of things. Like people have done on more of yogasanas and different kinds of mudras, bandhas. So
Mhm.
so we are trying to focus on just the mantra aspect
Mantra.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I again come back to from where we began, that
Mm,
Ramakrishna and Ramana Maharshi have has
mm.
huge influence on him. So if you have to just summarize in few words, what according to you has been their greatest contribution to mankind in general and to Hindu civilization in particular?
See, as Krishna says, right, everything is just old wine in new bottle, right? The core teaching has always been the same, that knowledge is the only way to happiness. The human problem is sorrow, and the solution to sorrow is understanding your own true nature as an unlimited entity. What is my true relationship with God or the infinite or whatever? And that is the one which is going to solve my problem. Everything else is only anesthesia, like temporary problem so that the surgery can be done. The real surgery is real understanding, right? And everything else is just a preparation for that. Now, this is the traditional approach, and everyone follows that only, and there is no deviation there, because there cannot be multiple truths. The truth is the same, right? And whether it is Sri Ramakrishna or Ramana Maharshi, they all have basically come and delivered the same message, packaged it for the modern man of the current times, and also depending on the adhikari, like depending on whom they are addressing to. So that way, like, the problem is the same, the ultimate solution is the same, and just that depending on the cultural context of the people, they have delivered it as appropriate to the what will be suitable and what will work best for them. So that way, like, that is how, like, whether it is Ramakrishna or Vivekananda or Chinmayananda or Shivananda Saraswati or like Satyananda Saraswati, like everyone, the message is the same, and they're trying to address the same problem, right? So depending on an individual, they can pick up whatever they feel is vibes with them in the right frequency, right?
Nice, nice. So we have one good question here. I
Mm.
think this is an important one. How does I mean how how to harmoniously integrate spiritual journey with our domestic life? As one tends to get caught up in work deliverables, domestic chores, etc. How does one go about finding the right guru who can help one from scratch?
Yeah. So, okay, so let me address the second question first, how to find the right guru. So, I mean, Dayananda Saraswati, he has given a very beautiful answer in on interview on this. So, basically, what he says is you can never find a right guru. Okay. So, it is like, there is a big marketplace, and there are a lot of people who are all blind, who are roaming around and trying to do various things. And there are some people who have eyes to see. Okay. Now, rest of people are all blind, and now you are one of the blind person. Now, as a blind person, I cannot find who has got eyes and who doesn't have eyes, because I myself don't have eyes. But what I can do is I can start searching for the people who have got eyes. I can do my search. Now, by my search, I will not be able to find a person who has got eyes, but a person who has got eyes will be able to see my search. Right? So I do my searching to demonstrate my sincerity. And the person who has got the eyes will be able to see my sincerity, and he will come and tap on my shoulder and say, like, I think you're looking for me. I'm here. And that is what happens, right? So what you do is you, with whatever limited access you have, actually these days you have unlimited access, right? With whatever access you have, whether on the internet or books, and just go and keep knocking at doors and do your homework. And when you do your homework, the Lord will introduce you to the right guru. Now, there is no right guru, wrong guru on the global level. Like, for you, who is the right guru, you will be introduced to. There are thousands and thousands of gurus. And at that point of your spiritual life, you need a person who will guide you and who will take you to the next level. And when you are, like with every guru, you will learn something. And when you have learned sufficiently, the Lord himself will put you in the hands of the next guru. So you don't need to worry about that. And I remember, like, there is a Swami Atulananda, American Swami from the Ramakrishna mission. He gives a very nice analogy. He says, like, you are in a boat and you have the oars in your hand. It's a rowing boat, and the Lord is holding the rudder. Your job is not to worry about the direction of the boat. You just put the oars as fast as you can, and let the Lord turn the boat in the right direction and then direct you in whatever direction he wants to go. The same thing is depicted as the Parthasarathi, right? Krishna takes the chariot wherever he needs to, and Arjuna fires the arrows. So you be ready to fire the arrows, and maybe you can even start firing the arrows, and let the Lord decide the direction, right? So you do your sadhana, and the Lord will bring the right guru to you at the right time. And addressing your first question,
yeah,
as a household, see, thing is, there is one life, there is not multiple lives. There is this whole concept of, spiritual life, secular life, separation is just, it is not there. You have only one life because you are one person, right? So when you say, like, you want to go on the spiritual life, be clear about what is the goal. Okay. The goal is very simple. The goal is, how do I go beyond my limitations? Whatever be the limitation, right? And so what do you mean by limitations? Like, we have the Shat Ripu: Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, right? Desire, lust, greed, anger, jealousy, arrogance. These are the defects of the human mind. So the goal is to become free from these, right? And your spiritual progress also is measured as that only. The more you are free from this Shat Ripu, these 6 defects of the human mind, the more spiritually advanced you are. So your goal is to become free from these. Okay. In fact, like in Paramatharanji, in one of his lectures, he told, he said, like, some people have the goal as, na apunar bhavam, right? Like, so basically, like, freedom from rebirth. So he says that's a very negative way of having the spiritual goal. Like, if your spiritual goal is to not to have another birth in this world, then your outlook in this world itself will become negative. He says that is not, and he says that is not the right approach. Your approach should be like, I want to attain perfection at the emotional and moral level. And of course, if you have perfection at the emotional and moral level, you wouldn't mind any number of births in this world, because the world will no longer sting you, right? So That is the goal. The goal is to become a perfect person, like Sita Prajna Lakshana, Gita talks about. So your goal is to become a Sita Prajna. And to become a Sita Prajna, your family, your work, everything are means, right? And from that point of view, like there is no real difference between family work, professional work, social work, or spiritual sadhana. They all finally have to be directed to the same goal, which is to remove all the defects from your mind. That's it, right? So there is no, everything is aiding towards the same, right? Every opportunity in your workplace or in your house is a good opportunity to expose some of your limitations, some of the rough corners in your mind. And when it is exposed, now you can work on it. You work on it and you smoothen the corners and you become a perfect person, right? So to become the perfect person is the goal, and everything is an aids. Everything is an aid towards that goal. So there is no split between secular and spiritual.
Okay, wonderful, Gokulji. I think today's session has been one of the most enlightening sessions we have done on Advaita Academy, and we are almost out of time now. So I just request you to give a final comments on uh, any advice you have for a new seeker of Vedanta, a person who is interested to start, person who is just started somewhere. So any guidance that you want to quickly
Yeah.
share with them?
So see, first thing is you have to start changing your attitude in life from a grabbing attitude to a giving attitude. Instead of being a consumer of this world, you have to become a contributor of this world. Take every opportunity and see how you can contribute to this world. And as I told you, when the karmic balance shifts, when you have given more than what you have taken from this world, that is when spiritual life will open up for you. So I would just say, like, start from there. Start doing social service. Be a giver, right? In your family, in your, office, in the society, everywhere you give more than what you take. And so once along with that, learn some meditation, right? And then try to do some meditation. And along with that, learn some Upanishads, Gita is beautiful. Like you can just 12th chapter of the Gita and 15th chapter of the Gita, like these two chapters, if you study, right? And that's a good start, right? And one thing interesting about the Gita is, like in case if you say Gita is so big, I want to read, which part of the Gita should I read, right? So it's very simple. Every third chapter of the Gita you read, right? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. These 5 chapters you read. That should be pretty sufficient, right? Very easy to remember also, right? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. These are the chapters of the Gita which contain almost the entire message of the entire Gita. Okay. And these are all short chapters, right? Only 12, second and 18th are the longest chapters. So those are not there in this list. So 5 small chapters, if you are able to read, that should be able to give you enough guidance. And one thing is, you won't be able to understand the Gita unless Mahamaya, Prakriti, nature opens the lock for you. And the lock will be opened for you only when you do Karma Yoga. So unless you have done enough contribution to this world, unless you have given enough to this world, your mind will not be opened up. You cannot sit and meditate. You cannot understand the scriptures. So you have to do Karma Yoga. You have to serve the world. You have to serve society in the form of your family or social service or your job, whatever way. Give more than you take, right? That is the mantra. Mantra is this: give more than you take. Like suppose there is a vehicle. What do we ask? Kitna deta hai, no? What is the mileage? A good vehicle is that which takes less petrol and gives more mileage. So first you become a good vehicle, right? A good machine. Then everything else will open up automatically.
Thank you, Gokulji. Well, that was a uh, nice analogy you gave. To something everybody can relate to.
Yep.
Viewers, with this, we come to a conclusion of another episode of Weekend Conversations. And from behalf of Advaita Academy, I am very grateful to Sri Gokulji for coming on our show. And hopefully, we will see more of you in future as well. And I would like to share that today evening at 4 o'clock, we are having Weekend with Wisdom, a session with Swamini Sadatmananda Saraswati ji on the topic of Yajna and Bhagavad Gita. It will be today and tomorrow at 4 p.m. Do not miss this. If you have not registered, please register yourself. You can check on our Facebook or Twitter or go to our website for more details. With this, we conclude this session. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha.
Jai Ram Krishna.